If you're tired of not making progress and you're ready to be the artist you know you're meant to be, you're in the right place. You're listening to the Singer's Path podcast. The Path, or Performing Artists Training Hub, will cover everything, including singing tips that actually work, advice from top industry professionals, and life-changing mindset shifts. Out with the starving artist and in with the thriving artist. I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, professional singer, actor, educator, and entrepreneur. I'm not afraid to speak the truth and stop the gatekeeping of quality information so you can actually become the artist you dream of being. So let's get on the path, shall we? Even though we're all on our own journeys, it always helps to have a guide. Hi, hello. This is part 2 of the basics of singing here on the Singer's Path podcast. Just really starting this good old Sunday that we're going to be making together, this journey we're going on with the singing together. I just want to make sure we just start with 2 large base scoops of vanilla and a chocolate, and this is what this episode is, right? We're creating a base. So even if you're an advanced singer and you're listening to this and you're like, man, it's the basics of singing, I don't need that. Girl, you might just want to stick around because maybe there's some holes and some gaps of some things that maybe you didn't think about before. Maybe there's a different way of looking at it. And of course, if you're a newer singer, you're a hobbyist, I just want to give you somewhere to go. So you feel like, you're getting a pretty solid idea of what to expect as you're studying the voice. You're getting ready to tackle it and to do it well. So here we are, part 2, basics of singing. Last week, we talked about breathing and posture, and I went on for half an hour about the importance of breath and how to take a good breath. I gave you some exercises, and we talked about posture and how you need to sit up straight, even though I probably should have done them in reverse order and told you posture first. But today, we're going to talk about the different parts of the voice, the different registers of the voice, and what they're made of and what you need to know about it. So first of all, there are only 2 registers of the voice. Okay, so right away, that might be different for some people that have been studying a while. And like I said in the other one, voice is like the fitness industry, like everybody, or like the wellness and beauty industry, like everybody has a freaking opinion, right? They're like assholes. Everyone's got one. Like there's many different ways of studying singing, and there's so many people that actually don't know what they're talking about and don't know how to apply it, and they just say things like blanket statements like sing from your diaphragm, and then you don't even know what that means, and they don't even know what that means, or sing in the color blue, which is a favorite of mine. I mean, there are people honestly that can like really see colors as they make music, which is incredible. But anyway, if you don't have that, that just makes sense. And I really severely digress. So here we go back to the main point, which was there are only 2 registers of the voice in the method of which I teach. Okay. And those registers are chest and head. Now you might be like, those sound like body parts, Sarah. Yes, they are. The chest register is where most people in the lower part of their voice will experience vibrations in their chest. That's why it's called chest, right? So if the chest register, really all you need to know is like chest voice and chest register is just you talking. That's literally all it is learning to talk on pitch. That is one of the first things we need to do when we're learning to sing. Is like, first of all, you need to know how to pitch, because if you don't know how to pitch, then that's actually the first thing you need to do, because we have to be able to sing the right notes. But if you're ready to sing the right notes, then talking on pitch is and learning to just use your speaking voice as your singing voice is like the best thing that you can start with. Now, if you're like, wait, Sarah, back up. Like, I don't actually know if I can sing on pitch. Like, what if I don't know if I'm singing the right notes? Well, I have something for you. And luckily, there's an announcement being made where we are renaming it, and you need to stick around for a couple more episodes because we're going to talk about what that launch is. And you can also find out about that if you sign up for our brand new, amazingly free class that's happening at the end of the month in March, on March 26th, which is called Starting to Sing. So as we're talking about like, I want to create the foundations of how to learn to sing. a free class called Starting to Sing might be a great option for you if you're listening to these episodes and finding them helpful. And all you need to do is you need to go down below all of the things that are linked in the show notes here. You can click on the link and you can sign up for this free live class that's happening on March 26th. Or you can always sign up on my socials. I have them linked there as well at Sing with Bish. And in this class, we're going to dive more into like what we're kind of talking about today, where we're exploring what does it feel like to be in chest voice, and head voice and all these other things that we're going to talk about. And how do we get our bodies and minds and spirits ready to sing? And if you come to this class and you're a beginner singer and you're still like, I still don't know if I'm singing the right notes, at that class, if you're there in person, I'm going to be giving like a very special announcement, and I'm going to be kind of filling you in on the resource, the course that's available to you, which is formerly called Pitch Please, that has like changed people's lives and gotten them to sing on pitch. Like that's a resource for you that exists. However, you're going to learn some more things about it and the rebrand of it and how it's going to be packaged and launched. So you're really going to want to be in that class, hint, 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 to get the best price and to have access to that. So if you're like, Sarah, I don't even know if I'm ready to learn these things, hold on, sign up for that thing. I'll see you there. We'll talk about it. Okay. Anyway, back to chest voice. So after you know that you're singing the right notes, the first thing you need to do is sing on pitch, right? And that's by singing in chest voice. So just to experience the vibrations in our chest, I want you to put your hand on your chest for a second. And I just want you to like make a loud ha sound. I'm going to pull away from the mic so I don't clip it. Ha, ha. When I do that, I can feel my chest vibrating. Okay, that's why it's called chest voice. And that's why head is called head voice as well. It's often because most people experience and can feel sympathetic vibrations or vibrations in their body in those areas. That's why they're called that. Okay, so the same thing goes for head voice. Head voice is kind of weird. It feels a lot different from chest voice. Okay, it feels thinner and smaller. It's certainly higher. And we can access this by pretending we're a hooty little owl and kind of just like pretend you're like in a little tree at night and you make this noise. Hoo, 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 like a little bird. Okay. That hooty, teeny weeny little sound is head voice. And when it's developed, most people experience vibrations in the head, compared to chest voice where they experience the vibrations in the chest. Okay, so that's why those two registers are called those things, because most people experience them there. However, not all people experience them there. So another way for you, if you're like, I'm not feeling those head vibrations, Sarah, what the frick are you talking about? Then just know that chest is where you talk. And head is like that really high, weird noise that you can make if you're imitating an owl or a child. Okay. So from there, when we're learning to sing, once you like can pitch, you're going to get comfortable talking and then you're going to get comfortable hooting. And those for real is how you're going to learn to start to get familiar with these different textures. Okay. And in this class that I mentioned, Starting to Sing, A Safe Place for Singers, which is the full title, we get your body and your nervous system ready to make these weird noises, to make these hooty sounds. Because, hate to break it to you, when you go to voice lessons, and if you're listening to this and you like singing, which I'm assuming you do because it's called the Singer's Path podcast. However, there are other artists that listen to this, so you don't have to be a singer, but you're somewhat interested in it, I'm assuming, if you're listening. Like, you're going to have to make all these weird, ugly noises, right? So this masterclass that I'm giving for free to give back, this Starting to Sing, A Safe Place for Singers, is teaching your body to get comfortable making these weird noises so that you can feel comfortable fricking it up. You know what I'm saying? And so you can explore and start to feel into your body and see what can happen if you let go of sounding good, right? I can tell you that it's like very alarming for most adults, especially, to just like recklessly abandon, like throw away all cares and dive into making the absolutely most insane noises that you would ever possibly make in a voice lesson, right? So this class is all about getting you confident so you can go into those voice lessons and feel good about it. However, if you're an advanced singer and you're like, well, I want to take advantage of the free class, Sarah, like what about me? Not only are we going to get your nervous system comfortable with making sounds, but we're going to go and start to identify old stories that we might have as singers that actually inhibit us from starting to sing or getting farther in our singing. So there's an element of kind of recognizing where we are and unblocking our voice beyond just our nervous system and like making weird noises. Like it's going to be a really cool class. I actually did a trial run of it in Costa Rica. I teach in the jungle at my friend's retreat every year, and it was such a success. People absolutely loved it. I'm so excited to bring it to you guys. So it doesn't matter what level you are. If you just want to get to know yourself more on the inside and see if there's anything kind of holding you back from freeing your voice, then come to this class, sign up. It's completely free. You can follow the link in the bio again, and I really hope to see you there. Okay, back to explaining chest versus head. So we have these two registers, only two. Once we have these established, then we learn what's called a mix. And a mix is more or less just blending those two registers together seamlessly and effortlessly so that it feels like it's even and it also sounds like it's even. Now, to kind of explain how we do that, I want to dive a little deeper into like why does chest voice vibrate in your chest? Like what about it inside your larynx, which is your voice box, okay? What about that causes it to sound like that? And what about head voice causes it to sound like that, right? So just a little anatomy. I won't make your eyes glaze over too much. But when we're in chest voice, our vocal folds are actually very thick. They're fat, okay? Compared to head voice, where our vocal folds thin out. So if you don't know what vocal folds look like, vocal cords, go on YouTube, look at a scope of vocal cords. They look some sort of way. They certainly have an appearance, I'll tell you that. But if you look it up, okay, you'll see that you can't really see it as well in the scope, but you'll see that they're these little teeny weeny little muscles that are tissues, okay? And they're actually together about the size of your pinky nail. They're so small. And if you want to locate where they are, you can find your like little Adam's apple on your throat. Like if you're a higher voice, if you're female born, it'll be quite a little ridge, but you can find it by swallowing and you'll feel it go up and down. Or if you're like a naturally male born person, you'll have an Adam's apple. So the vocal folds are directly behind that ridge. Okay. And just know that when you are speaking, your vocal folds are thicker. Okay. And this is because there's a muscle called the thyroarytenoid. We just shorten it by saying a TA muscle. Okay. So there's ta, when you're in chest voice. Okay. The TA muscle is basically pulling on in this kind of leveragey pulley system on those muscles of the vocal folds. And when you're speaking, that TA muscle has more engagement, which causes them to be thicker. Okay. So sometimes in my TikToks and stuff, you'll hear me say like, add more thickness to your sound, or like add thick TA quality and chest voice. Like they're all synonymous, right? The more TA engagement you have, more often than not, the thicker the sound is and the thicker the vocal fold is. Now, we can learn as we get more advanced how to get the perception of a thick sound higher in the voice without necessarily dragging chest voice all the way up from the bottom. But that's kind of an advanced thing that we get to later once you just know how to speak on pitch, which means you have good chest voice and you activate the head voice. Now, getting into head voice basically means that the vocal folds are thinning out. And this is because, remember that TA muscle we talked about, that thyroarytenoid muscle is giving over to a different muscle called the cricothyroid, or the CT muscle, which is what we call it for short. Okay. So the TA muscle slowly gives over to the CT muscle. If we are going from chest voice, all the way to head voice. When I demonstrated that in my throat, my TA muscle was slowly giving over to the CT muscle, which is causing the vocal folds to get skinnier and thin out. Okay. And it's interesting because like the vocal folds themselves are actually thin and the sound is thinner in comparison, right? Head voice in general, that wee sounds thinner and kind of smaller than chest voice, right? And again, like I said, there are ways to make it sound thicker, but no matter what, when you go up high in your voice, your vocal folds like have to thin out. Okay. So that's the difference between when I use the terms thickness and thinness. That's what I'm talking about. Thickness is TA muscle, is chest voice. Thinness is CT muscle, is head voice. Okay. So that's just something across the board. There are various exercises that will teach you how to get into speaking and head, and we'll explore more of these. Like I'll give you actual lessons. Like if you keep coming and you keep listening to these podcasts, like you'll hear about more opportunities to go to live classes and courses that I offer that will actually like condition these in for you. But for today, we're just kind of exploring what you need and what the basics are. And you're going to need to learn to hoot like an owl. That's where you could start. You're going to need to learn to talk on pitch. Okay. Once those are established, right? I was talking about how the TA muscle needs to give over to the CT muscle. When I mentioned mix earlier, when the TA muscle gives over to the CT gradually, that's what we would consider a good mix. All right. It's blending and being perceived like it's all even and it all is like effortlessly giving over. Okay. Mix is a very general term, and I'm going to do a whole episode just talking about that, but it's just a way to blend the sound in any way you desire. And when that muscle transference happens the most gradually, that's when it's going to sound the most blended. Now, I know a lot of the beginner singers is like, they're like, okay, that sounds like a lot of science, but like, how do I actually do that? Again, your only focus right now is to learn to talk on pitch and hoot. Okay. Literally just start there. Okay. Now, another thing that's really important when you're starting to sing, just to get a clear sound, is something called resistance. And resistance gets thrown around a lot on TikTok and on like anywhere you're trying to get free information. So I wanted to like take the time to like really explain what it is. And again, if you want more exercises that actually help you with this, like come to the starting to sing thing. Like you're going to get a lot of info that you aren't going to get here, right? When you're actually present at the live event. So make sure that you check that out so that you get more actionable steps here. Okay. But resistance, in a nutshell, in the most simplest version we could possibly explain it, is really the difference between an airy sound and a clear sound. And not even just a clear sound, but like a powerful ringy sound. Like resistance is like a really big fucking deal, like a super big deal. And it kind of bothers me that, I mean, even though it's thrown around a lot, like in a lot of like traditional studies, like I don't think people really like make it clear how important it is, right? Remember last week when we were talking about airflow and I mentioned resistance briefly? So like we learned about how to take in a nice big breath, but resistance, in my opinion, is where actual breath support comes in, because it's really how the vocal folds, those muscles I was talking about, are actually using the air, how they're working against the air. That's why it's called resistance, because the vocal folds are resisting the air. And when the vocal folds are not resisting the air very well, you either are doing one of two things. One, they're not coming together enough, right? And again, you're going to have to like look up what vocal folds look like so you can see this. But basically, if they're like two flaps flapping together, okay, part of the flap isn't coming together, okay? That's more or less what it is. And because there's too much air moving through them and the muscles aren't coming together all the way. And it sounds like this. So if you are trying to sing and your sound sounds weak and shitty, and no matter what you do, you can't get it to sound clear or strong, it's probably because A, you don't have enough thickness, that chest voice thing we talked about, that TA muscle we talked about, and your vocal folds aren't working together well enough. The other thing that can happen when your sound is like that is you could have a vocal injury. And now I'm not a doctor and I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not saying anything, but having that sound is a symptom of having like nodules or a polyp or something and not being able to get a clear tone because those bumps or those little growths on the vocal folds are causing the vocal folds not to come together all the way, hence having an air leak. Okay. So just know that a lack of resistance equals an airy sound equals an air leak, more or less. Like you're hemorrhaging air. You know, if you ever wonder like why you're out of breath when you try to sing, I guarantee you it's probably not because you're not taking enough air in. Okay, like when we talked about last week, you probably don't need as much air as you think you do. You're just not using it very well. And that's where resistance can come in. So I talked about this is one way that resistance is not being used well is that there's too much air passing through and the vocal folds aren't coming together enough. So it makes an airy sound. The other way that resistance, you can cross the line and go in the other direction and not be resisting the air very well is if you're over pressing the vocal folds together. So you're like squeezing them together, like, right? That sound is me having my vocal folds come together too much, which creates this kind of pressed sound. Okay. With this pressed sound, you're just going to feel really constipated and you're not going to have the ease and the sound that you want. We want to land somewhere in the middle where we're just getting nice, clear tone without working very hard and without it sounding constipated. So it sounds like this. Right? Again, pretty close to speaking quality, right? High, if I was high in my voice and had good resistance, it would sound like this. Versus or right, is a little pressed or like just too much vocal fold like coming together. Okay. So those are the different things we have to play with, right? That are what we then want to pick tools that are going to meet your needs, right? And that are going to move you forward and help you play your voice the way you want to play it. Okay. So we have breathing and posture, which we covered last week. And this week we talked a lot of science about thickness, which is the chest register, which is also the TA muscle, and thinness, which is head voice, which is the CT muscle. And then we just talked about resistance, which is how the vocal folds come together. Okay. So more or less, how do we stand? We stand up straight. We allow lots of air through. We let it move. However, we let it move and vibrate the vocal folds efficiently. And the vocal fold shape is really dependent on the sound we're trying to make. Okay. So like those are the 4 things that any good voice teacher is going to start with. And the more they help you blend your sound and get comfortable in your sound and free up your sound, the more you'll be playing with these different things so that you can get up and down through your voice with all of this working efficiently and evenly. Okay. So I know it's still, you're probably like, wow, I'm just starting and like, I didn't know, like there's all this stuff, but like again, the purpose of this podcast and my whole platform is not to give you shit information. Okay. Like, even if you are a beginner, it's still important to know functionally what the frick is happening and what to do about it. I'm not trying to just be like, and then you breathe here and then you think about this and then it just happens and you do a lip bubble and that's it. And it's like, okay, no. Like you're here, if you're here and you care about singing, like we're actually going to do something functional that actually works. So start with that. Like play around with speaking on pitch, play around with hooting, hoo, or going like wee, like a kid going down a slide, wee. Just get comfortable making those noises. And then you can play with, okay, can I make my sound really airy? Can I make my sound clearer by like just thinking more talking? Yeah. So those are the things that we actually actively have control over. Now, we can use tools like funny sounds, consonants, vowels, and some visuals sometimes to then really manipulate these things and get us feeling like really good about it. And that's what voice lessons are about. And if you're like, I want more of this, I want to teach my body how to make this sound, this is again another reminder. If your ass isn't signed up for that starting to sing class, safe space for singers, learning to teach your body and your nervous system to feel safe doing this crazy shit, I don't know why you wouldn't sign up, if I'm honest. So stop what you're doing. Go right now. Click the link in the bio. Sign up for the Starting to Sing class. You're not going to want to miss it. There's invaluable information. And I hope to see your sweet, sweet, beautiful self at this class for free. If you haven't already signed up, go do it now. And I will see you. I will speak to you in the next episode. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. This helps me get this information out to more artists all over the world. Let's work together to spread the joys of music. Until next time, I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, signing off from the Singer's Path podcast. Thanks for listening.